The homework is practiced to develop the concept.
The concepts that I understood yesterday, not transfer.
And the concept, let's review that. There were two things. Average rate of change. What is that? It's just the slope. Okay, that's the slope of the secant line. You guys remember what the secant is?
Wasn't that the problem? It was that finding average rate of change is like interval. That was the problem.
Right, it's two problems there. So the secant line is just this. That's the secant. And this would be the tangent. Okay, do I need to put the points on there, or do we know what the slope is? Yes or no? Jason, what's the slope? M equals, it's f of c plus h. That's the change in the y values. All divided by c plus h minus c. That's the slope. I guess I need to put the points in here. Okay, so here is c. Here is this distance we're going to call h. Then what's this x-coordinate? C plus h. What is this ordered pair here? I'm sorry, I'm out of space here. But it's c plus h, comma, f of c plus h. No, average rate of change is nothing but the slope. Change in the y's divided by the change in the x's. And this is c, f of c.
But it's not that.
I'm going to do the problem in a minute. This is the change in y. This is the change in x. So you see how to find the slope here? It's the change in the y values divided by the change in the x's. Does everybody see that? Well, that's what slope is. Okay? What is, then, the instantaneous one?
Just the one, like at that one.
It's just at one point. So the instantaneous, if you look at what you notes from yesterday, the instantaneous rate of change and the tangent line, slope of the tangent line, are the same things. It's on the very last page. Okay, so this is the same thing, but what we're going to do is drag those points closer together. So h goes to 0. I will write this down. If you don't know it, you should be able to write it down. What you're going to have to do is recognize it. You may have to actually do it. They haven't done it in a long time in the AP exam, which means it could possibly happen. And when I subtract c plus h minus c, it's all over h. And that's equal to the slope of the tangent line.
So you don't have to do anything. You just have to say the limit.
Nope, you have to find the limit. Jason.
Why? This may not be relevant, but why did they name these two lines tangents?
I'm guessing because of the Greeks back with circles. This was called a secant line. It'd be interesting to go and look at the history of that, where that comes from, language-wise. And this was called a tangent line. Do you remember that from geometry? Yeah. That's and tangent actually comes from the word tangio, which is Latin, which means to touch.
Like the tangent line relate to the actual tangent function at all?
No, but the tangent function, the tangent of a graph is actually the slope. When you calculate the tangent, remember what tangent is of an angle? A, B, C. The theta, the tangent of theta, which is interesting, is A over B. Well, guess what? That's the slope. Yeah, it was interesting, actually. In the old book, we actually proved some of these things together. Okay. The limit of the slope is basically taking this point right here and dragging it closer and closer along the curve so that eventually, I'm answering a question from the lab, by the way, the secant line approaches the tangent line. They actually, if you get it infinitely close together, the secant line is the tangent line. That gives you the slope of the tangent line. You could read it right off your graph. Looks like about -1. Just reading it off the graph. Tangent line is this line right here, and I want to look at its slope. That's all I want to do, look at the slope. Yeah, let's do the first homework problem. Number 1.
So, okay, in your homework, it doesn't word it.
It says find the average rate of change. If it's asking for an average rate of change, what's it asking for? Okay, these are the x values. So for part A, you should be doing this with me, especially if you haven't done the homework. If you have, we can look at some of the second half problems because they're a little more challenging. This is the interval. This is not an ordered pair. Maybe that's the confusion. It's x cubed plus 1. Are you looking at the wrong place?
Yeah, we're at 92.
Yes, number 1.
Plus 1.
I have x cubed plus 1.
Oh, so that's
You're probably looking at the quick review.
I wasn't doing
Okay, so you have to find, what is the slope? It's f of 3. I like to put the second one first. Minus f of 2, but it doesn't really matter. Divided by 3 minus 2. So what is f of 3? So f of 3 is 3 cubed plus 1. So it's 28 minus, what's f of 2? 2 cubed plus 1, which is 9, right? Over 3 minus 2. And if you want to check your answer in the back of the book, I suppose you have to subtract it. What's 28 minus 9? 19. And 3 minus 2 is 1. That's all it's asking for. So I'm confused as to what your question is. Yes. F of 2 is 2 cubed plus 1. These are the x coordinates, not the x and y.
Yes, okay, so,
You have to find the y values. They didn't give them to you.
yes. But,
So we put in 2. 2 cubed is 8.
yes.
Plus 1 is
9.
9. That's the 9.
Oh, okay, sorry, I was just confused with the way.
That's all there is.
So the x value is 2 and the y value is the answers.
The y values are the values of the function at those points, yes. Who's going yesterday? Anybody?
Who's gone?
Yeah, she's still going. Okay. I want to steal these. Okay. So then we do 3. We'll see what we get, start getting stuck on some. Number 3 is the same question, but using e to the x. 7 is actually looking at your graph. I'm looking for the question. They're asking for the slopes between all the points. Oh, there it is. Estimate the slopes from P to Q. Where's P? Oh, P to Q, each of the little segments. And that's distance. So if I take, number 7, if I take the change in the distance divided by the change in the time, forget math. Forget that we're in math class. You know how the distance changes. You know how the time changes. This is meters and this is seconds. What am I looking at? Meters per second. You guys drive cars. Miles per hour. What is that a measure of? Velocity. Okay, so sometimes you get stuck in the fact that it's math class, and you just think, oh, what is meters per second? Just think about it. It's the distance per time. And if you don't know that, we shouldn't be driving cars, because that's what a car does. If you go 55 miles per hour, that means in 1 hour you've traveled 55 miles. So those race cars are driving, what are they going at, 250? 250 miles per hour? When they crashed and that guy was killed, it was terrible.
That was
How fast do they go? Yeah, and so 1 hour you go 250 miles. In 1 hour you're halfway to Chicago. That's kind of scary. You've ever driven to Chicago. That's why we fly, because it's faster. Now they have flying cars, so just wait. Okay, number 9.
Wait, that's not.
Yeah, you just find the slopes between P and Q1, P and Q2, P and Q3, P and Q4. It's tedious.
Wait, can you like show us one example of how you do that?
You find the slope between P and Q1.
What are the values in P and Q1?
You have to read them off the graph. So P is at 650, 20, or 20 comma 650. And Q1 is at, oh, we can estimate it's 10. I said it was 220. I'm not always right. And you just calculate the slope, just like we did with the fruit flies yesterday. Well, you got to watch your order. So the slope of PQ1 is equal to 650 minus 220 over 20 minus 10. My guess is you switched one of those. Look at the graph. The graph is increasing. What's true about the slopes along here? They're all positive. It's an increasing graph.
But the other slope is even smaller.
Actually,
It's getting more.
they're getting steeper. When I get up here, it looks like this. The slopes are bigger. Slopes are actually increasing, which tells us the shape of the graph, but that's way in the future. Okay, we ready to go to the next one? Did you guys try these?
We have a,
Yes.
does it matter which one you do first on like the first section? The one that you put in that first?
Nope, as long as you switch the x's to go be appropriate. You gotta think of them as being married.
Okay.
They have to stick together. Okay.
Like the end of at the end of
Now number 9 is harder. So let's look at 9. Well, there's a lot more to do with it.
I got C.
It says find the slope of the curve, the equation of the tangent line. I'll just call it equation of a line. Equation of the normal.
I definitely got that.
Well, if you got that one, you had to get B, and you had to get A. You can't. Then draw a graph of the curve, tangent line, and the normal.
I'll let you know how it's pretty.
Well, you can't find the normal unless you know what the slope is, because the normal is the opposite reciprocal. So 9 is y equals x squared, and x is equal to negative 2. Now I want the slope of the tangent line. It says the slope of the curve at the point. I wish it said slope of the tangent line, because it's really not named correctly. So the slope of the yeah, that doesn't make sense, is the limit. As h goes to 0, it's f of c plus h minus f of c all over h. And maybe we should draw the picture first, because that might be easier. So y equals x squared. And when I draw the picture here, you should be able to tell me what the slope looks like. At negative 2, is that a positive slope or a negative slope? Negative. So you should do it with me. You will find in college they go 80 times faster than what I do, and you better learn to write fast. And they don't have a smartboard, and they don't have videos. So we're getting there. Remember, it's a college level class, so do it with me. Plus, then I don't do it too fast if I have to wait for you, because you tell me. Okay, so what's my C value here? C equals negative 2. I could just use C if I wanted to, but I'll use the numbers because sometimes it's easier. I don't know if this is easier. Okay, ready?
We did the same set equation. We have like a story.
No, because what are you going to do? You're going to go over a little bit h, and so this value here is going to be C plus h, which is a negative 2 plus h. You have to do this limit. You don't have numbers. You only have 1 point. That's a problem. Okay, so it's the limit. As h goes to 0, I'm going to do it in baby steps. I want f of c plus h, so it's going to be f of negative 2 plus h. I don't like that negative 2. Minus f of negative 2. All over h. Those are the y-coordinates. So what's the y-coordinate here? When c is equal to negative 2, what's that ordered pair? It's x squared. It's the input squared. What's the input? Negative 2 squared is what? 4. This one's the tougher one. Okay? I have to put this negative 2 plus h in for x. So this is going to go right in there. So I'm going to actually write it out. What is f of negative 2 plus h? It's going to be my x squared. What's my x value? Negative 2 plus h. I'd rather square it as h minus 2, personally. We can do it either way. We'll just do it the way it's written. Okay, you ready? So the slope is equal to the limit as h goes to 0. Now, I got to put this one in, so it's negative 2 plus h squared minus f of negative 2, which is negative 2 squared, but you already told me it was 4. Right? And don't be lazy. Keep that h there. First off, if you're on the exam and you say, okay, I'm just going to do the numerator and put the h in later, you're going to get points taken off because it's not mathematically correct. So you have to keep it all mathematically correct when you do this. So m is equal to the limit as h goes to 0. That's one reason, because you'll be graded down. But the main reason for keeping it in there is you get lost. And when you get into engineering and higher level mathematics, things get really complicated. And if you don't keep everything there, you will never find out what you decided to drop out. So keep it all there. Now we're going to multiply that. It's FOIL. What's negative 2 times negative 2? 4. What's the middle term? Minus. You multiply these two together and double. That's minus 4h, and then plus h squared. I would have made it h minus 2, which is easier to square, but anyway, it's okay. Minus, and negative 2 squared is 4. It's not right without those parentheses. Negative 2 squared does not equal 4. Got to have the parentheses if you want to square the negative. That's why I call them invisible parentheses. All over h. And remember what I promised. I promised things would cancel, and guess what? They do. This is just algebra. It's first year algebra. Sorry. Okay, what can I factor out of that? H. And you've seen this so many times, it should become more familiar to you. All over h, and what's going to happen to the h's? They cancel. And you take the limit, and the answer is, well, this is the hardest part right here. It's negative 4. H goes to 0, remember? Remember, we want h to get really small. Think your way through this. You've seen the difference between this year and last year. You're thinking. Hopefully you're thinking more. And when you start thinking, it's going to get a lot easier. So, they ask for the equation of the line. It goes through negative 2, 4. The slope is negative 4, and this should be automatic for you. I'm going to write it out anyway. Y minus y1 equals the slope, x minus x1. And you could even start looking through the multiple choice questions on the old exams and say, I know how to do that problem. You already know how to do 10% of the exam. Maybe more because there's pre-calc in there. So it's y minus 4 equals negative 4, x minus a negative 2. I'm not even going to bother simplifying because I don't want to do it wrong. Now, if you have to match it on an exam, you're in trouble. Okay, then what's it ask for? It asks for the slope, equation of the tangent, equation of the normal. So let's do the normal in a different color. Let's do the normal in green. So the normal, what's the slope of the normal? And I didn't draw it in here. Let's draw it. What's the normal? I'm running out of colors. What's a normal line? Let's try that weird thing. It's the perpendicular, so it looks like this. These are perpendicular. So that's the normal. So what's true about the slope? M is the opposite reciprocal. So it's the opposite of my negative 4, which is positive 4, and then the reciprocal. So writing that equation down, it's too light for green. It's still y minus 4, but the slope, this part will change to its opposite. 1/4 x minus a negative 2, which is x plus 2. And then they asked you to draw the graph. Well, I did that first because I like to see the pictures. Oh, but I like to see what I'm doing. That visualizes what I was doing. Trying to find the slope of this line, which is clearly negative, and then I do the normal, which is then obviously positive. So at least I have some self-checking in there. Math tells me what to do if I put it all together. And that was a more complicated problem. That was number 9. We did. What is the slope? Negative 4. We did that. You had to do that first.
Why do we put negative 4 as y1?
I didn't. Did I move my y's values up? No. Because it happened to be 4 here as well. Coincidence. Coincidence. That happens. Now, you may need some help with 11 on finding that slope. That's not easy. Do you need some help? You don't even know what I'm talking about. You haven't tried it. Oh, you guys. One person tried it. I know 11's hard. Yeah, you guys, you gotta do your homework. You know what? Do your homework and see if I'm right. We already know what happens when you don't do your homework. Yeah, that was the graph. No, the C was actually the equation of the normal. Let me go back. That's the perpendicular. So yes, I did. I did it all. Yep, that's it. So looking at number 11, we know what happens when you do it your way, not doing your homework. Do your homework, you'll do better. And some people say, well, I didn't do very well doing my homework. Just imagine what you would have been like if you hadn't done your homework. Yes, they are AP questions. This is an AP class. And if you trust me, you should know me enough now to trust me. And do what I tell you to do, you'll get the 4 or 5 on the exam, which is what you need to do to get credit. 3 is questionable. Right. You even get some credit. No, you get a 1 by just taking the exam, showing up. I don't know if anybody got a 0. And I've read lots of papers with nothing on them. Lots. With nothing written down. You are not going to walk in there and write nothing down. You're going to write something down. But if you don't do all the practice problems, the AP problems we give you, you'll freak out when you look at the problems because they're going to be even different than those problems. But you're going to read the problem and you're going to say, oh, they're only asking this. Okay, it's a different context. They'll say, oh, it's fruit fly problem. Can't even say that. Okay, the hard part here is finding the slope. Yes, question. The slope is always, the slope of the tangent line is always the limit 1. Yes, we did. We did it back here. Right here, we did the limit. We found the slope to be, whatever it was, negative 4. That's the equation of the line. This is the slope. Slope. And I think this problem will get easier. It's still hard algebraically, this next one. If I graph it, what does 1 over x look like? Okay, there are some functions you need to know. This is one of them. This is the reciprocal function. Now, what does the minus 1 do? Shifts it to the right 1. So my vertical asymptote here will be at 1. And we kind of did this problem. We did 1 over x yesterday. Okay, I want to do this at 2. So, there's my tangent line. I know, I haven't figured out how to change everything on time. Okay, and this is at, where is this at? This is at 2, comma, 1 over 2 minus 1, which is what? 2, 1, right? Okay, let me write the formula down. Have it in front of you if you need to. How do you find the slope? It's the limit as h goes to 0. And it's going to be f of c plus h minus f of c all over h. That's the change in the y's in the numerator and change in x's in the denominator. That's what it is. Okay, so my c is equal to 2, and so c plus h is going to be equal to 2 plus h, right? Okay, so you should do it with me. I'm going to substitute it in here. I'm going to take baby steps. Normally, I wouldn't even write this next step, but it's f of 2 plus h minus f of 2, which I already know what that is, all over h. See, these things aren't going away, are they? Well, they'll go away when we get to 3, 3. I got to find out why we didn't get our handouts, but we'll have to get those. I'll be working on a calendar, and I'll get that up also onto Schoology. Okay, so what was my function? Oh, this was this awful one, wasn't it? Ooh. F of x was equal to 1 over x minus 1. So where you see that x right here, you're going to put in a 2 plus h. I know you don't want to do that, do you? Well, we'll do that, and then we'll simplify it. Well, sometimes you just have to simplify. So it's 1 over x, but x is 2 plus h minus 1. That's function notation. That's just f of 2 plus h. Then we're going to do minus f of 2. I already know what it is, but I'll go ahead and show the work anyway. So it's 1 over 2 minus 1, because we already know that's 1. All over h. So if you remember your quizzes, there were derivatives on your quizzes. You just didn't know they were derivatives. Remember, a derivative is nothing more than the slope of the tangent line. We'll say that lots of times. Okay. So let's go ahead and simplify that before I try to take that limit. Okay, so this is 1 over, what's 2 plus h minus 1? 1 plus h, good. Minus 1 over 1, just to show the fraction. It's not a big deal. And now do you remember what to do with the fractions? I don't want the fractions. And really times 1, but which just doesn't change anything, but just to show you that that's the process. Take the denominators, multiply them together. Is that okay? And we're going to distribute that. We're going to take this times the first one, and this one times that one. And why do we choose that one? Because what's convenient here? They cancel out. I can multiply by 2 over 2. It just doesn't get me anywhere. It's just a trick. And it's a nice trick. And if I solve equations with fractions, I will do the same thing. I will clear the fractions. Because I don't even want to deal with algebraic fractions, and I'm pretty good with it. So when I multiply the 1 plus h times the first term, that becomes 1. The other thing is the vocabulary. These things we add together are called add-ins, and they're called terms. Now when I multiply this times the second term, you guys don't want to do this. You want invisible parentheses. Well, you're going to get the wrong answer with your invisible parentheses. Because the h is going to become negative. It's not going to stay positive. I don't want to multiply it out, because when I reduce my fractions, it has to be factors. Numbers you multiply together. Now, some of you want to cancel the 1 plus h's. You can't do that. If I have 1 minus 2 over 1 times 2, can I cancel the 2's? No. Algebra is nothing more than arithmetic with letters. H is just some number. If it's h is 1, then that gives you 1 minus 2 over 1 times 2, which gives you negative a half. If you do this, I really don't know what you get, because it doesn't even make sense. 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 2 once. Then that's 0 then? I don't know. It's just wrong. It doesn't work. So you still do what it says to do. This is a grouping symbol. It says do what's in the numerator, because we can. You just have to know the rules. It's 1 minus 1. What's the next thing? Minus h. Where do you think the mistake? always is. They do plus h. Even with the parentheses, they do plus h. But at least if you have that. And we go through every step of your work on the exam. We read through it all. So come spring, maybe we'll do some of the problems that I graded and show you how we graded that. And yes, the scoring rubrics are online, but there's nothing compared to what you actually learn when you're grading it. I have a whole page. I take the scoring rubric they give me, and then I fill it with notes about what is going to be acceptable, what's not acceptable. And I always have to go back to that. But after a while, it goes fast, because I've seen it all. So what happens is your question leaders, they pick a whole bunch, like 100 samples, and they grade them, and they grade them, and they look through them, and they say, what are the common errors? And then they brief us on those common errors, so that when I come to a paper, if somebody's already seen this mistake, because it's just, everybody's doing it, so then it's easy for us to grade them in the same way. Once in a while, I come up with something different, and then I have to go to my table leader and say, well, what do you think about this problem, and how they did it? Do they get the full points? And sometimes it goes all the way, it can get all the way to the chief reader, actually. But you may go to the question leader. Question leader will come over and say, not sure what to do with this, and then he'll go to the chief reader, which is the big guy in charge of everything. So there's a big process to this. It's very interesting, and it's fun. And I learn a ton as a teacher, because I learn what your mistakes are and how to stop those, so you have an advantage. Because that really helps if your teacher's a reader. Okay, and again we can lose the negative sign so easily. Because it says 1 minus 1, I know what that is, right? I hope. And so I get minus h over h times 1 plus h. And if you look at your picture, you're going to say the slope has to be negative. So obviously I made a mistake someplace. Well, I didn't, because I got a negative, right? Now let h be 0. That's the calculus. Very last thing is you put h into 0. It's negative 1 over 1. So my slope is negative 1. My slope of my normal then is what? What's the opposite reciprocal of negative 1? Positive 1. And can you write the equations of the tangent lines? I will not assume that you can, but can you? And we don't always have the luxury of having this kind of time in class to be doing the homework together. So we need to be doing some of it outside. You're going to tell me if you need the equation of the tangent line.
Do we need the equation?
Yeah, you do. You need to do that. And it's part of the question. Have beautiful pictures online, by the way. Okay, what's 13? Did we assign 13? I got to just check. Nope, 13's out. Now, if you want to do 13, you can. It's an absolute value, but I would just go by the picture. Oh, 14's harder. And what does it ask for 14? Find the slope of the curve. Actually, it's easy. But let's draw a picture. Should we do 14? We'll have the assignment done? But I know you guys wanted to work in your lab, too. 14, my graph is f of x is equal to the absolute value of x minus 2. Honestly, it looks like Greek to me. And I want at x equals 1. It says find the slope of the curve at those points. That's it. There's no calculus here. Is there? It's just asking for slope. Do I need calculus? How about if I graph that? What does that look like? It's a V shape, but where's it going to be? It's going to go over to 2. Right? So there's 2. There's 1. What's the slope of this line? No. Did I use any calculus? No. I could use calculus if you want me to. It's a lot harder. That's all there is. Nope. Nope, it's right.
So we don't have to use the f minus c.
Would you like to do it so you see what it looks like? Because you've seen it before. You've seen it before. Because I can find the slope. What, can I find the slope for x squared? No, because it's a curve. This is a line. So I can always use regular old stuff. If I want to do the slope the hard way, it's the limit. I'm not going to take baby steps because time's important. But it's f of, well, I can do 1 plus c minus f of 1 all over h. So it's the limit as h goes to 0. And f of 1 plus c is going to be 1 plus c minus 2 minus f of 1, which is going to be 1 over h. Actually, this one's not so easy to do. So it's the limit as h goes to 0 of the absolute value of c minus 1 all over h. And then we've seen, I was thinking it was something that was going to look different than this, but I have to write this one down now. Let's see, c minus 1. Did I make a mistake someplace? I don't think so. I think it'll work. The absolute value of c minus 1 is equal to c minus 1 for c greater than or equal to 1. Oh, that's tricky. You can't even do it. Not yet. Because what happens when I get this? But c is equal to 1. What's going to happen? Yeah, I have to go from the left and the right on this one. It's trickier. But it's minus c minus 1 for c less than 1. So if I put in c minus 1, I made a mistake someplace. Let me think about that one. Because I know what I want to get, what I should get. I think I have to rationalize that, and I don't want to do that. My invisible parentheses. Okay, so I made a mistake, but we don't do it that way. We just do it graphically. Should have worked, but okay. What's the next one? It's 15. Ooh, this one's tricky because this is a piecewise graph. Determine whether the curve has a tangent at the indicated point. If it does, give the slope. If not, explain why not. So 15 looks like this. And we just noticed something about that. This year, I always, for 20 years, I'm still learning. Now, so we're going to do some of these the easy way, and some we can't. This will also answer another question on your lab. First question is it continuous at 0? It's a subtlety you may not have realized, but if f of 0 is not continuous, what is f of 0? 2. What is the limit as x approaches 0 from the left? 2 minus 2x minus x squared. Obviously from the right it's 2, because these are nice functions. These are continuous. But does the graph meet up at 0? Because if there's a discontinuity there, how can you find the slope if the graph doesn't match? Does that make sense? How can you find the slope? Because what has to be true is the slope has to be the same from the left as it is from the right. So from the left, what's my limit? It's 2. So it is continuous. So then what we have to check now is, can I find the slope on the right side and the slope on the left? I'm going to do the easy one first, because I like easy. What's the slope on the right? Now remember how we write this down? How do you write slope? There's a special notation. We called it f prime of x. So I'm going to do the easy one first. What's the slope on the right here? What's the slope of that line? You know this. It's not calculus. It's 2, right? Now, I don't want to do the definition. We have to do the definition. We have to calculate that slope. Well, I know how to do it the easy way. The slope is going to be 2x minus 2. That's the challenge, some of you. So let's see if I'm right. Okay, so f of x. But you know what? You guys need some practice with this. It's 2 minus 2x minus x squared. So it's the limit as h goes to 0. And we're going to do this at x equals 0. So that's going to be a lot easier. So it's f of 0 plus h minus f of 0 all over h. Which doesn't prove why my answer is right. So if it's 2x minus 2, it's going to be negative 2. That's my prediction. Okay, 0 plus h. So I'm going to substitute that right in here. It's 2 minus 0 plus h minus 0 plus h squared. minus f of 0. But what's f of 0? 2. Remember I said these would cancel. Aren't they going to cancel? Yeah, did I make a mistake?
On the outside of the parentheses that are 0 plus h, is there supposed to be 2 of that? Because that's what the goodness.
No, I just put in 0 plus h. Oh, you're right. I missed a 2 here. Thank you. That one. Okay, now I got it right. Otherwise, I'd have it wrong. And then I would have said, okay, what did I do wrong? Okay, let's simplify that. It's not as bad as it looks. It looks like it's going to be horrible, but it's not. It's 2 minus, what's that going to give you? 2h minus h squared minus 2. Oh, that's not so bad, is it? You don't like algebra? I love algebra. What are you going to factor out? H. What, the what? It's just a parentheses. I'm just trying to show you this is the f of 0 plus h. Then this is f of 0. So if you were to see this on the exam, you'd say, oh, my function was 2 minus 2x minus x squared at 2. And then you could do it the way I just did it in my head. Okay, so we factor out an h, and I remember I predicted it would be negative 2, right? Negative 2 minus h all over h. What happens to the h's? They cancel. Put 0 in, and you get what? Negative 2, which I told you that's what it would be. In my head. You'll be able to do it in your head, too. David. Get some sleep. Come up here and do the problems. Okay. What's the question? Oh, the slope is negative 2 for x less than 0. So my slope is negative 2 here, positive 2 here. This is the slope graph. What do you think? Can you do that? Can you drive your car in reverse and not stop and put it in forward?
No.
No, you can't do that. These have to come and they have to be the same slope at that point. They're not. So this is not, can't find the derivative. It's called not differentiable. What do they ask me? How do they say this? It's continuous, but the does not have a tangent. Can you draw a tangent line? In other words, it's going to be right here. Can you draw a tangent line? It's got to be the same, doesn't it? Because remember, it came from a limit, and the limit of this, whatever this is, has to be the same from both sides. So, no tangent line. Now that's an answer to a couple questions on your lab.
So the whole big spiel we just did was minus what?
I have to find the slope of this one and the slope of this one. The slopes have to match. They have to be the same. And they're not. So we can't do it.
We just picked the left.
This was the left, but I could found this one the easy way because I know how to do this. That's the slope of the one on the right. Ooh. What this is going to look like is some sort of parabola. It's upside down parabola at 0, so it's going to come in like this, and then it's going to, I'll make it a little flatter there, and it's going to go off like that. There's a, what they call a cusp there. And actually the slope is negative 2, so it's actually not even that graph. Let me undo that. It's this part that's coming down, because I know what a parabola looks like. It's upside down, right? Minus x squared is an upside down parabola. And then the line's going to go off like that. Still a cusp. So how can you draw a tangent line at a sharp corner? You can't. I can't do it. The slopes have to be coming into the same value from both sides. So there's a corner there. Cusp, corner, they're not going to be picky on the exam what you call it. Sharp corner is good enough. Okay, I think we're almost done with the first day. Oh, we are done with the first day. No, we didn't do 17. Then well, the first, but I don't know what the next ones look like. Oh, the next ones are harder. Oh, there is some physics here. 23 is physics. I'll let you do 17. And again, and there, that one's a little more challenging algebraically. Let's look at 23. Did I say? Yeah, 23. Let's do a physics problem. Free fall. I'll let you guys do 17. Because you're not going to know how to do 23. Because I haven't talked about this at all. Okay, I'm going to draw a picture. An object is dropped from the top of a 100-meter tower. There's my tower. Okay, let me get this started for you, though. I know you do need to do that. And it says, a height above the ground, why don't we call that h, is modeled by this formula. You should have seen this in previous classes. That's the s equals 1/2 at squared plus b naught t plus the initial height. It's the physics formula. How fast is this object falling at t equals 2? I wonder how fast it's falling. So we're going to drop a rock here, or whatever it is, and it's going to go down like this. What's happening to it? At t equals 0, what's the velocity?
0.
It's 0. Because you're not throwing it, you're dropping it. What's the velocity? It's 0. Okay, at t equals 1, it's going faster. At t equals 2, it's going even faster. I want my velocity there, which is the change in the distance divided by the change in the time. So you have to get, no, you're going to have to do a derivative. It's the slope of the tangent line. So it's going to be m is equal to the limit as h goes to 0 of h of, and this is going to be 2 plus h, sorry, let's call that s. Let's call that s so I don't get that mixed up. S of 2 plus h minus s of 2 all over h. That's equal to your velocity. That's what you have to do. Yeah, there's some physics. That gives you the position. S of 2 is where you are. How far have you fallen? Yes.